Good evening, everyone. Oh, look, we have a lot of people today, Flávio. I guess, I guess the ones that I see and the ones that I can't see, I know there's even more people. So good evening, everyone. We are back to our um, second Monday of each month. The meetings that we have every second Monday for uh, to spread Spiritism in English, so that we, as listeners and as people that live here in the United States, want to at least know a little bit more of the words, of the vocabulary, so that maybe when we are talking to someone, we can talk about it a little bit, about Spiritism. So that's one of our main goals, and our meetings are usually they usually start at 7 every second Monday of the month, and so you're all welcome. And we usually start with a prayer, and then after we have a brief reading and a comment from an inspirational message, usually from the book Our Daily Bread, which tonight Nancy will give us the reading and a few comments on it. And then tonight we have a special friend. He comes help us in Portuguese and English whenever possible. And tonight he's coming back to give us a talk about the gentle yoke. It's our dear friend Flávio Zanetti. So let's start, and then so that we can go on with Nancy and then with Flávio right after that. So if you want, you can close your eyes to focus even more on the good thoughts and the good energies of the good spirits that surround us, to say, dear Master Jesus, friend of our hearts, of our lives. Once again, we are here at our little spot of light to read, to listen, and to learn about your gospel of love, of redemption, of transformation, and of self-knowledge. We would like to thank you for all the effort you've been putting and all the trust you put on ourselves, so that we can, by trying to mimic your actions, your thoughts, and to practice your teachings, to make this world we live in a better place for everyone. So may tonight your blessings of love and of hope reach not only our minds, but our hearts, so that we may leave this place better than when we came in. May your love fill us all and be always with us. Thank you, and so be it. So now let's invite Nancy, and right after Nancy, she will invite Flávio to give us the talk of the night.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have from the book Our Daily Bread, from Emmanuel, chapter 111, and the title is Win Friends. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves. This is Jesus said in Luke 16:9. If the individual could succeed in discovering through human experience the profound past, he would more rapidly reach the conclusion that all the opportunities that complement him in knowledge and health came from divine kindness, and that most of the material resources that are at his disposition and desires proceed from injustice. It is not up to us to particularize, but rather to deduce that the concepts of human rights originated from the divine influence because, as far as we are concerned, we are compelled to recognize our slow individual evolution from fierce selfishness toward a universal love, from the iniquity toward true justice. It will be enough to recall in this sense that almost all the countries arose centuries ago through cruel conquests. With exception, men have been squandering servants that at the moment of adjustment did not appear to be worthy of the benefits received. It is for this reason that Jesus left us the parable of the unfaithful servant, inviting us into a sincere fraternity in order that through it we could find the path of rehabilitation. The Master encouraged us to gain friends, that is, to expand our circle of friends through which we can feel more intensive protection in a spirit of cooperation and through intervening values. If our spiritual past is somber and painful, let us try to simplify it by acquiring true dedications that will assist us through the harsh climb of redemption. If we do not today have a determined bond with the wealth of injustice we had it yesterday, and it becomes indispensable that we take advantage of time for our own individual readjustment before the divine justice. Well, I made some comments. I will try to do as brief as possible. Everybody came to hear our brother Flávio. In the first paragraph, the notes I took, it says that he said if we could see what we did in our previous life, Emmanuel said here, we could conclude that all the opportunities we have on this present life came from the divine kindness, God's mercy to us. It's not because we were good people. Also, the most of the material resource that we have, our money, our house, car, our goods, or whatever, also came from the God's kindness, not because our merit or value. And on the second paragraph, Emmanuel mentioned that the man who wrote the human rights law were inspired by the good spirits. It's not by himself, just with human mind. He was inspired. He had intuitions to do it better human rights, better laws to all. And of course, some spirit reincarnated here with this mission to make it better. It's always mentioned that these things happen not because we are good. It's because of God's mercy, because of the intuition, because of the good spirits that helped us to make it better. And he said that our evolution has been happening very, very slowly. And he said in the paragraph number 3, by the time we passed away, most of us has no right to have perks and benefits. It means since when we born, until we die, we are not too good. We have a lot of stuff that we have to try to make it better. We have to try to make to be a better people. And then the title is Win Friends, right? And the paragraph number 5, what I understood was win friends in this message means to cooperate with each other and to reach the evolution we need to work as a team. We have to remember that you cannot do it by yourself. You need to do to your brothers, your sisters, everybody, your neighbor, right? And try to see every single person as your brother or as your sister. That's why Jesus encouraged us to gain friends. And on the title, he said, win friends, right? And everybody will win behaving this way. So the conclusion is helping others means helping ourselves. If you help others, you will be helping yourself. And that's it. So let's invite our friend Flávio to bring tonight's lecture. Thank you.
I'm going to ask for that to be on. I need my assistant to turn it on. Thank you so much, Nancy, for the message. It was beautiful. And like magic, it's going to show up. With that, before we start, we'd like to, once again, raise our thoughts to our big brother, our teacher, Jesus, for all of the assistance, all of the help. And may he really stay and be here with us, bringing our hearts at peace, enlightening our minds, so we can really comprehend his teachings to the best of our abilities and knowledge. For us to start, I'd like to invite us to go back about 2,000 years. Let's do a trip all together? Let's do it. So 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was with us, or even a little before he came, right, and started preaching, let us transport ourselves to that time. Imagine if we were a religious person back then. It was very common that a lot of the religious leaders, right, in Judaism, established a lot of different rules, a lot of different guidelines for religious followers to do what? To follow. So it was very difficult, oftentimes impossible, for somebody to follow every single law that was dictated, that were imposed by religious leaders. Give you just a few, so you have an idea, right? It is known that Judaism prohibits, even today, people to eat pork, right? And the history tells us that one of the main reasons why is because pork back then had a lot of diseases and really transported a lot of diseases. So in an effort to really control, right, people's health, they prohibited them from eating pork. Another totally different, right, rule that was hugely enforced back then. When you were praying, the more orthodox, right, still do it today. Right? So when you were praying back then, you had to tie yourself, right, with a little rope. And every, for example, prayer that you said, right, you do one more tie on your arm, for example. So you'd feel a little pain to remind you how imperfect you were still while you were praying. To really remind you that you were here, right, and the Creator is somewhere else. This is just a couple of examples I wanted to share with you guys. There are many others, right? But then, why am I telling you this? Because oftentimes, as I said before, it was really difficult for somebody to follow all these rules. Very difficult. To the point that a lot of people gave up because they thought they were not good enough to follow the religion, that was prevalent back then. Then the Nazarene comes and says something totally different, right? He brings the gentle yoke. Let's see what that is. So, here is in the scripture. At the time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. You have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. Jesus, and then Matthew writes in his chapter 11, verses 25 and 26. If you continue with the scriptures, all things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal. Then the message comes. That is, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. That's what Jesus told us, Matthew chapter 11 and 28. And then he closes the message by this: take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So what he's telling us here is totally the opposite of what the first revelation, Moses, right, and Judaism is to ask its followers. But then the question is, what is yoke? Because a lot of people say, well, yoke, what is this? Okay? So first you go back all that time. If you worked in a farm, you had cows and cattle, and you actually use, right, animals to do what? To really transport or carry weights, food, all sorts of things, right, from one place to another. You also used animals like these, right, cattle and oxes, to sow the land, right, to do all the activities from your farm. So yoke is this piece of wooden right here. And every time you have this in an ox or in a cattle like this, what happens, right? They can only go straight. They can't make decisions. They've only have the choice, which is to follow and nothing else. So Jesus is telling us that his yoke is easy. How is that possible? To have something stuck in our backs that's pulling us in one direction? How is that easy? So, it's really important that we understand and comprehend the scriptures with all its symbolism and the right definition. So, if you look at yoke, that's the wooden bar or frame into which two draft animals, such as oxen, are joined at the heads or necks for working together. That's a dictionary definition, right? As you saw from this picture. Okay? So, but then, if you look at the subjective meaning, it's something that's imposed by force or authority. You must go this way. There's no decisions to be made. You have to go that way. That's it. Right? Cause of oppression. Sometimes religious leaders back then were oppressing their followers. Don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. Not letting them really take the actions upon themselves. Right? And if you look at behavior analysis, right, it's a bond of submission and obedience. That's what the yoke really means. Every time the yoke is put upon us, right, we're being asked for obedience and sometimes submission. That's why you see in some of the scripture, translations, you must submit to God. You see that a lot of times, right? In reality, we don't believe that's how it was written. It was how it was translated afterwards, right? Because, once again, Jesus always said, that his yoke was easy. He never asked us to submit to him. On the contrary, he asked us to do what? To follow him, which is very different, right? To follow and to submit. When you follow somebody, you follow based on your own understanding, your own free will, right? Your own wish. To submit to somebody or to something is you let go, you forego your free will, you forego your wishes, and you just submit. You just go to that direction, right? That's the big difference. But when you look at Jesus, right? When you see all the things that he did, this is only one message amongst so many that he said, and the disciples and the evangelists wrote, right? When you look at him and the figure of Christ, do we know or do we have an idea that is really Jesus Christ the same person? What do you think? Is Jesus and Christ the same person? Jesus is at a Christ level. There are other Christs. I think we're studying Spiritism. I like that. I like that. Correct. So, yes, Jesus is one Christ. There are other Christs, right? In different planets, in different locations. As we learn from Spiritism, Jesus is the Christ. Our Christ, right? On earth. He is the governor of our planet. But the interesting thing is how the word Christ gets its meaning. If we go from an etymological, journey, Christ from the Old English, Christ, Latin Christus, Greek Christos or Christos, right, means the anointed, that or the one that was really prepared to really show, to really lead, to really give us the teachings, to really, right? In a way that when you anoint something, meaning when you're going to make a cake, for example, right? You anoint the pan so it doesn't stick there, right? Back in the days, the word anointed, or the fact of somebody was, being anointed, right, was that has a pure meaning and a pure definition in a way that he is the leader or the example, the model, right? And then Kardec used to, later, right, almost 1900 years after, told us he's our model and guide. That's exactly what the word Christ means. It wasn't his last name. It wasn't his family name. Jesus of Nazarene was his last name, right? Because he was born in Nazarene. That's how last names used to be made back in the days, right? Somebody from some location. But the most interesting definition that I'm going to leave you guys with, right? Christ means an ideal type of humanity. The ideal model, right? When you make, cake, for example, you have a small forms or small cake, pans, right? In different formats. You put, the dough in there, and the format's going to come out, right? So when you look at an ideal model or ideal example for humankind, that is Christ. That is Jesus. So, if you look at Jesus as the model, how do we bring the model towards our own selves? How do we say, you know what, Jesus, that's great. You're a teacher, you're a model, you're a guide, you're a coach, you're a psychologist, you're a leader, you're XXX. How do I get all that and put here? That's the ask that we see from Spiritism. The Christ within each one of us. Why? Because he said, you are God's, with lowercase g, right? You can do everything I did and much more. So if he told us that, that means we could do everything he did and much more. The beauty of Spiritism is that it teaches us that Jesus is somebody just like us. That millions and millions of years ago made better decisions, and he is where he is, and we're still here, right? In our infancy, we're crawling towards spiritual, evolution. But the beauty of this is we're going to get there once. All of us will get there, right? That's the beauty of it. So when you look at the ideal type of humanity, right? That's how the gospel teaches us. It's very interesting because in a way, right? It talks about, the truly good person, or the one that really complies with the laws of justice, love, and charity. Where? In their highest degree of purity. So everything that person does, everything, 24 hours a day, the person is following the laws of justice, love, and charity. So let's picture ourselves in our family setting with our loved ones at home, right? How easy is that to practice the law of love, charity, and justice in their highest degree of purity? Not easy at all, right? Imagine if you're driving on 95 at 5:30 p.m. and somebody just cuts you off, almost causing an accident, right? Can you be charitable? Can you be loving? Can you be just or fair to that individual? We should, but we're not there yet, right? So I like to say that the difference between angelical beings or high evolved spirits and us is very simple. It's only one thing. It's called intestine. What? Yes, it's called intestine. As long as we have intestines, guess what? We're not those angelical beings yet. We're not. Because we have this visceral reaction. When somebody does something bad for us, we feel here, we feel like it's right here. And we understand why. Because that's how we channel that energy, right? It's through our stomach. It's through our intestines. So until we have that, I'm sorry, folks, we're not those angelical beings yet. We're going to get there, but it's going to take a little while. So going back to the ideal type of humanity in every setting. It's not only here in the Spiritist Center. It's not only at home. It's at work, during traffic, when we, relate with fellow human beings, when we go shopping, when we go sightseeing, when we go traveling, when we go everywhere. Everybody that we relate or we really talk and interact with, you have to practice these laws. That's what it is to follow Jesus' footsteps. That's what it is to really get us more aligned with that ideal type of humanity. So, going back to the scriptures, Jesus tells a story that 72 of his followers, some disciples, some followers, students, have returned. And Jesus asked them to do something for him, and they returned. And when they returned, they felt so much joy that was inexplicable. And this is how they relate, or they tell us this story. So, Lord, these are the 72 telling this story. Even the spirits submit to us in your name. Everywhere we went, then we say, Jesus sent us. Everybody submit to us because of your name. Jesus replied, I saw the adversary fall like lightning from heaven, super fast, right? I have given you authority to trample on snakes, scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. However, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. What he's telling is something very simple, yet very complicated at the same time. When he sent those 72 to do some work for him, they were committed, they were driven, they were following his footsteps, they were following his teachings, which was great. But at the same time, Jesus was a little concerned that these 72 followers and students will get their egos ahead of them. And how much that happens sometimes with folks that have maybe made a couple of steps. When they get a little further ahead, they do what? they crumble everything down based on their selfishness, based on their ego, based on their thoughts that they're better than somebody else, right? Jesus told us and taught us the exact opposite of that. So if we take a little step forward into the interpretation of the scriptures, right? This is a victory of the Spirit. Those who made the decision to really follow Jesus' footsteps, they came back victorious. They won their friends, right? They made new friends. If you look at this, right, from the power of faith and positive thoughts, they were faithful that whatever they were committed to doing, whatever they were asked to do, they were going to do it. How many times do we question our own faith? We come here, we study, we learn, we listen, and then something happens. Oh my God, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why it could have been somebody else, my neighbor, Mackenzie perhaps, or some, right? Why me? How many times do we ask and challenge our faith? Again, we learn from Spiritism that nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason, and then God does not throw dice, right? We learned that. Albert Einstein said that. So whatever happens, it should be happening. But why are we so concerned? Sometimes when we have an affliction, or when we have suffering, when we, lose a job, or when we, somebody's sick in our families, or a loved one goes back to the spiritual world, how do we feel about these things? How do we react to those things? Those 72, they were faithful. They were committed. They were doing exactly what Jesus told them to do. Then, the spiritual evolution and the power that we have over matter. That's what Jesus is exemplifying in his teachings. We do have power over matter. Yes, we do. Right? The more we evolve, the more we have power over matter. Not the same power that Jesus said, storm, stop, go back, go away. Not that power. Because we're not Christ yet. See the difference? But we do have power over matter in a way that our thoughts are also energy. And energy is matter, meaning we have power through it. That's what Jesus is telling us, right? Okay, Flávio, tell me all this, but can we really do what Christ did? Can we? I don't know about you, but I'm not happy in this incarnation. Maybe a little bits and pieces here and there, but yes, we can. Yes, we can. And the beauty of this is, if you look at how the Father revealed to the Son, to his Son, to Jesus, right? To all of us, right? At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father. I pray for you, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to the little children. That's Matthew telling us the story, right? And the beauty of this is, if you read this, like skim through it, we're not going to get the concept, the meaning of it. You have to really go deep into what this is actually telling us. So let's do it together. Let's excerpt all the meaning together. So, Jesus said a thank you prayer, which is one of the objectives of prayer, right? So when we pray, what do? We thank, we give praise, right? And we ask. That's what we do. 3 things we do in a prayer. Usually the 3 should be there at all times, right? So he is actually thanking the Father. Thank you, Father, for what you have done, right? Then he describes what is heaven and earth, because the Father, our God, is our Lord of heaven and earth. So the Lord, our Father, our God, is not only our God in the spiritual world, he's our God here too. So there's no difference, because this life, right, is a copy, it's a mirror of the spiritual life. So Jesus is telling us that our Lord is our Lord here and there, in both places. He's telling us, okay, who are the wise and learned? Because the God is hidden, actually is hiding these things from the wise and learned. The wise and learned here are those religious leaders from back then, as I told you in the beginning. Because they were so concerned about behaviors, about routines, about the exterior, the makeup of it, right? The mask. They were not concerned in transforming people, right, internally. Most of them, not all, but most of them, right? They're really concerned about the exterior, not the interior transformation. So Jesus says, you know what? Thank you, right, for hiding these things. Because they're not going to do anything with them anyways. And who are the little children? All of us, right? People that see it say, you know what? I don't know, but I'm going to get there, right? I like it, but I don't know how to get there, but Daddy, can I do this? Help me do this, right? Daddy, can you teach me this? That's us. We are the little children who are seeing this huge thing ahead of us, but we don't comprehend still. We can't even fathom to really understand what's ahead of us, but you already see the benefit of it. You already have that something inside of us, right, that really motivates us to get there, right? Then the question is, can or whom did Jesus come to help? So did he come to help everybody? Yes. Okay. Did he help everybody that came to him? No. There were some people that came to talk to Jesus. They were not cured, for example. The Gospels don't talk about them, right? But there were a lot of people actually that came to talk to Jesus. They were not healed. They were not cured. Because guess what? They did not deserve to be cured. Remember when Jesus used to impose his hands, which what we do here for pastors, same thing, right? And would heal somebody, he always said that at the end, your faith has healed you. Go and sin no more. That's the message, folks. So he came to help a lot of people. He did not help a lot of people because he couldn't. Those people were not ready to be helped. We have to do our own part in order to be helped. There's a story that's in the book Missionaries of the Light that Andrew Lewis, the spirit, is looking at in a highway, two broken down cars. You may have seen this or heard this story before. The first car was a religious person. And the car broke down, and the religious person says, oh heaven, oh Lord who are in heaven, start to really say the Lord's Prayer. And the Lord's Prayer, and the Lord's Prayer, and the Lord's Prayer, and there. The second car that was broken down, the guy just came out of the car, opened up the hood, was swearing as well. This car and piece of junk and whatnot, and starts banging in the car and changing some things and playing with it, in a way trying to fix it. Then the enlightened spirit came to Andrew Lewis and said, Andre, we're going to help the second one. I was like, what? But the guy is swearing. His behavior is not, at least he's doing something to try and to fix it. Whereas the first one is just there praying that God's going to do everything for him. The message here is very simple, folks. We have to do our own parts. Right? Nobody can do our lives. Nobody can live our lives for us. It'd be a lot easier to say, you know what? Hey, can you come here and live my life? No. We have to live our lives. We have to go out there and work every day. We have to go out there and take care of their loved ones. We have to go out there and do X, Y, Z. And every one of us would know what X, Y, Z means. Because it's different from all of us. Right? So when Jesus came and helped, he helped those who were ready to be helped. So, since we are those little children, how can we be ready to be helped? That's the question for you, right? So, going back to the scriptures, if you look, for example, all things that Jesus said have been committed to me by my Father, meaning God gave Jesus his directions in what you carry on or carry out. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Meaning, nobody back then had an idea who Jesus was. The great, really mission that Jesus was there to carry out. right? He knew it. Of course, God knew it, right? And he shared that with some disciples, but not with everybody. So if you look at this from an interpretation perspective, it's very simple, right? Or at least try to simplify it, right? He was in agreement, he was in tune, and he submitted to God. He was at that level already. So you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide the waters. I'm going to divide the calendar and before Christ, after Christ. I'm going to bring down the second, right, revelation, Christianity. That's great. I can do this. He was in agreement. We have to be in agreement with what we can do. So for example, if my guardian angel comes down and says, Flávio, I need you to go there and do X, Y, Z. Write 250 books through channeling, through mediumship. I'm going to say, you know what, dude? I'm sorry. This is not me. I just can't. It won't work. I'd love to help, but it's just not me. I can do other things, right? But that's not what I can do. So there was no confusion. There was no confusion between what Jesus could do, what the Lord wanted him to do. A lot of times, we set ourselves up for failure because we want to solve the world of hunger, and we can even solve some small conflicts within our own roof. So that is humility. That's to understand and to know what we can do, what we are capable of doing, and commit ourselves to do those things. There was no confusion between the Father and the Son, each knowing what each was supposed to do. So when we know that, right, we know the truth. And as we know, Jesus told us, the truth will set us free. For example, very practical example. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, Flávio, I think you should run for a politician. You should become a politician. Maybe you could become the next president of the United States. But amongst ourselves, I think I could do it. This is a small problem, right? I wasn't born here, so guess what? The law prevents me from doing such. So it's impossible. I could do it, but it ain't going to happen. So if you know the truth, you won't frustrate yourself. You won't disappoint yourself. Guess what? But I could maybe become a city councilor. Yeah, I could do that. I could, yeah. So if I set myself up to do these things, yes, I could do it. Things that are within my realms of capabilities, I could do that, right? So they were united. They were together, right? Very, very close, right? Personal and individual process. And each one of us have our own process that unites us with our Creator. I'll give an example. When I pray, I don't spend hours and hours praying. I don't think it's worthwhile doing it. It's my personal opinion, right? Not Spiritist opinion. It's Flávio's personal opinion, just to be very clear. And when I talk to Jesus or to God, right, I go straight to the point. I'll give an example. Lord, right, I'm your son, so you know me really well. You know me really well. You know what I'm capable of doing. You know what I'm not capable of doing. So if I believe I could do X, give me some hints, right? And by the way, I don't understand, special code. No, I need big, bold letters, preferably in pink or purple, so my attention is caught, so I can see what I'm supposed to do. I know this is a free will thing. I get that. It's okay. But give me some hints. Hey, I think you should focus on that. I think you should study this. I think you should go after that. At least I know what I'm supposed to do. So I go straight to the point. Hey, I'm having a problem here at home or at work or with my friends, this and that. Help me out. What's the best way for me to carry out myself following, right, Jesus' footsteps? As long as I know what I'm supposed to do, long term, how to get there is what I have some questions. I go ask the boss right away. I'm here. I'm working for you. Right? I'm here. Help me out here because I need some help. That's how I talk to him. Right? How you talk to him is you. It's personal. It's individual. It's very different. And nobody has the right to tell you, you should pray this way. You should say those things. No. That's personal. That's individual. Right? Even Jesus sometimes had to exclude himself from the people and go up to the mount to pray by himself. He did that several times, I think 7, if I'm not mistaken, in the Gospels, right, in the Scriptures. And, right, this is a process of regeneration, and enlightenment, meaning we're constantly changing who we are. We're constantly evolving, right? You are not the person you were yesterday. You're not the person who you'll be a month from now, because you learn more things. You have more experience, right? Everything that happens to us, there's a learning component out of them. That's what we should pay attention at all times, right? And the gospel, the teachings, right, tell us. In this one, for example, the most important piece of this is that we have to deny our ego. We have to really understand what we're capable of doing, what we can really accomplish. The whole President of the United States, I cannot do that, right? But I could do some smaller things. Yes, I could, right? So understand what we're capable of doing, set ourselves up for that, right? And then go forward. Prepare ourselves, get ready, pray, meditate, work, right? And get there. That's what we learn from the gospel. But a lot of people don't get that understanding because they're so stuck in how the letters were wrote, how the words were written, right? That they just miss it. And this is the beauty of Spiritism. That really opens our understanding for these things. So, the call for the final step is when he said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, who are tired, who cannot accomplish those things, who are really tired and fatigued and you can't really go on," right? So, all of us who are still in the illusion of matter, right? I have to have this. I have to have that. I have this. I need to have. Let me give you this to you. You don't need to have anything. What you need to have is love, right? And peace. Everything else happens after that. Everything else. So the integration with our own inner Christ, understanding our own potential, where we can get to, what we can accomplish. This journey is very personal. And you may say, "No, Flávio, it's great, but I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be this." That's fine. That's totally fine, right? Because guess what? Very simple analogy. If you look at an airplane, right? There's a pilot, or maybe several pilots, and several flight attendants. The flight attendants by themselves cannot fly a plane. The pilots by themselves cannot fly a plane either. They have to work in conjunction. One more analogy. If you look at an aircraft carrier, right? An aircraft carrier. You have watched Top Gun, the movie, right? So an aircraft carrier, there are the fighter pilots. Yes, they're there. But there's also the guy on the deck, on the floor, with a little flag, just a little flag, that shows where the wind is blowing. Without that little guy, the little person on the deck, the pilots cannot take off nor land the plane. So for everything to work, we have several different jobs that are equally important. When I say this is an important step that we learn through Spiritism, right? It doesn't matter if you're here talking, if you're there listening, or if you're there cleaning or washing the floor. Every one of us have a task to do. And all these tasks are equally important. Because without one of each, we can't work by ourselves. So once you do that, once you have this integration with your own Christ, then you set achievable goals for yourself. Then you say, "You know what? I'm not going to be a Divaldo in this incarnation, but I could actually maybe do a lecture for 45 minutes. Right, Nancy? So maybe I'm going to study, I'm going to get more knowledge, and then get there, right? Maybe you do passes, maybe you attend mediumship, whatever it is that you want to do. Think inner, think right there, hearts. Does that really help you, help others? Is that going to make you happy? Is that going to make you fulfilled? And then understand your potential and get there, right? Because the challenge that we have in this life is that sometimes the love that we have for Christ is not as big as earthly temptations. What? You're going to the Spirit Center again? You've been there 3 times this week? What's wrong with you? Right? What? You don't do this any longer? You don't go to these places anymore? What happened to you? Right? We may get this once in a while. Because the earthly temptations are right there. And they're calling us all the time. Just come here, don't go there, well, whatever, right? How do we say, you know what, this is this and this is that? By the way, some of these have their own reason for being there, right? But for us that have already seen the message, right? What have been our responses in the past? And then if we pay attention to the divine laws, we start to really grasp the concept of our Creator, that everything happens for a reason, that all these laws, right, are there to explain to us how the world's very fair and just, right, as we can see it from our own imperfect eyes. Flávio, hang on a second. If I turn the television on, there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of terrorism. Yes, there are a lot of these things. That's why I say, yes, there are a lot of unjust people on earth. That's true. There are a lot of things, right? A lot of injustices that we see. Oh my God, look at this, right? But nothing, and nobody, I should say, nobody is injustice. Nobody falls under injustice in any circumstance. That's why you see, for example, right? I lost that plane. The plane ended up crashing. I lost that plane for like 2 minutes. In 1996, that TAM flight that crashed out of Sao Paulo, I was supposed to be on that flight. 1996. I missed it because of traffic. So I'm not sure if it's luckily or unluckily you're here listening to me, but nothing happens by mistake, right? So when you understand the divine laws, you understand what you're supposed to do, right? So that is all to say that He came for those who are weary, who are burdened, who are really tired, right? Jesus, help me out. I need your help. I can't. I'm having problems continuing this work. I'm having difficulties really spreading your message. Right? Sometimes I feel sad. I feel, I lose my motivation. Help me out, right? That should be our prayers. That should be how we really get to the final step. Why? Because when He tells us that to take up on His yoke, right? To take His yoke upon all of us and learn from Him, right? Because He is gentle and humble in heart. Look how beautiful this is, folks, right? And we will find rest for our souls. Beautiful, beautiful message. For His yoke is easy and His burden is light. And He's not contradicting all those religious leaders. By all means, He's not. What He's doing is, this message is a lot easier, right, than the message that we were given. Forgiveness is a lot easier than hatred, than vengeance. Vengeance might be better when we just put it here. Yeah, look, you pay what you did to me, right? But then later, we suffer that through incarnations. Forgiveness might be a little bitter when we just gobble it down, but then we reap the benefits for the next incarnations. There's a saying that goes like this. If you really want to spend 40 incarnations with somebody, and you can picture that somebody, just hate that person. And you spend 40 incarnations with that person. Because if you love that individual, love sets all of us free. Right? That's what He's saying. That's what He's saying. But people, they didn't get it when He first saw it, when He first told us. When He said that, once again, there's one condition on the assistance and happiness that He promises, right? To the afflicted, only one condition. Forget about, all these laws, they're important, but my yoke is very easy, right? love, forgive, everything else, right, is at second stage. If you do those two things, and by the way, forgiving is also loving, right? So you're good. He continues, right? His yoke is the observance of the law. As long as you're loving your brother, your neighbor, like you love yourself and you love our Creator above all, right? That's it. But his yoke, right, is easy and his law is gentle. Very gentle. Since it imposes love and charity as a duty. If you are called, or if you like to call yourself a disciple, a student of Christ, this should be in our day-to-day lives all the time. Somebody does something for us, yeah, whatever, I'll forgive that person. It's tough, but it is what it is, right? Because if we don't, the yoke's going to be very heavy. Right? That's why it's a lot harder to feel hatred, to feel angry, as opposed to forgive and to love. A lot more difficult, a lot heavier yoke if you decide to go that route. And finally, right? Faith in the future and trust in God's justice, which Christ came to teach every single one of us. Even if you don't call yourself a Christian or a Christ follower, his teachings have permeated to different philosophies, to different religions that don't even have his own name. This is the beauty of it. That's why he says that his yoke, right, is very easy, and that his law is very gentle. May this, folks, inspire you to continue following Jesus' footsteps in a way that he really shines and becomes our Northern Star, our own GPS. That we see this and really we open our arms, like this picture right here shows, right? To receive all that light, all those fluids and energy that are there, that all these heavenly spirits are almost dying to give us. But sometimes we're so closed. We're so not ready to receive him because guess what? We're not following the yoke. We're still hating people. We're still oppressing people. We're still discriminating others. We're still doing things that are against the divine laws. They're against what Jesus had told us. The moment we shift our GPS, the moment that we put Jesus as the model and guide, the moment that we do that in our lives, everything changes. Everything changes. And I'm not just saying our problems are going to go away, right? Our boss is going to go. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the problems are still going to be there. But how you see the problems, how you relate, how you interact, how you submit to them is different. Because you understand what you're supposed to do. Thank you so much. May God bless you all. Thank you.
So as we reach the end of our meeting, we would like to just to invite everyone that want to go and take the passes to go take their passes. And right after we finish the passes, we'll come back to give a few announcements and then do our final prayer so that we can all go in peace back home. I'll see you in a bit.